All right, what's up everybody? We're going to do a really quick WebC Eleventy plugin crash course. I have everything already installed locally, and we just have our really bare bones configuration file here with the plugin added. And so the easiest way to use WebC is to create a new WebC file in our input folder. And these can be any arbitrary HTML. I'll just put some boilerplate in here, and let's try running Eleventy. And you can see that it creates this output folder here. Let's open up that. And they're basically identical because their Eleventy WebC isn't doing anything. So the magic comes when we add components to our project. So what we'll do here is create a new folder inside of our includes folder. And we'll just create a new WebC component. Hello, I am a component. We'll just put some text in there. It doesn't need any nodes. It can just be completely arbitrary content. Nothing fancy. And the next thing we should do is use that component. So we'll declare it here in our body. And if we run Eleventy here, you can see that it doesn't actually expand that component in the output HTML. Because as far as Eleventy WebC knows, that isn't a component used in our project yet. So to use global components inside of your configuration file, we use a components property here, and we just point it to the folder that our components live in. So you can actually use a glob here to dynamically import as many components as you want with one single property. And it will use the file name here by default to map to the component tag name. So let's try rerunning Eleventy. And you can see in the output, it is again mapped to the text from our component definition. Now we can get a little bit fancier here if we want to include arbitrary CSS here. So let's do font weight bold. This will be mapped to our body tag. And you can see that when we run this in Eleventy, it includes the host component tag name here, but it still expands to the text inside. But you also note that the CSS doesn't appear in the output. So this is running WebC in bundler mode. So bundler mode will aggregate your CSS and your JavaScript inside of your components for declaration on your page in a global way. So to use bundler mode in the Eleventy WebC plugin, we want to use a layout file. So let's go ahead and make a new layout file here. And let's go ahead and use WebC for that as well. And we'll move this back to our page content. So we're using my component inside the page, and we also want to use a layout here. So let's declare that here in front matter. And inside of our layout definition, we want to use the HTML from the page and inject that into the body element here. So let's try rerunning Eleventy. And you can see a very similar output. So we get the custom tag name because we included some CSS in our component definition. So we want to style that component. And again, the component default content. All right, so to output the page bundle specific CSS for the components in use our page, let's create a new style element here in our layout, and we'll set the content here to use our new get CSS helper from the plugin, and we'll pass in the page URL. So rerunning Eleventy in this case, you can see the component CSS has now been aggregated up to the style block. So now let's go back and change this to use scoped CSS. And we'll scope this to our host component and rerun it. You can see an arbitrary CSS class has now been added to the component, and only the component now will be styled with font weight bold. And you can do this for JavaScript inside of your component definition as well. You can use a script. You can use a script source, point to a local file name inside of your project, and you can also point to a local style sheet as well. And those will all be aggregated up by default. So yeah, that's a crash course in WebC and the Eleventy WebC plugin. Let me know how it goes. I hope you enjoy it.